When miners began carving into a remote mountain in Utah, they expected to find the usual coal, minerals, and maybe even a hint of gold. But what they unearthed was beyond anyone's imagination. Hidden beneath the rocky surface was something so astonishing, so unprecedented. It has experts worldwide questioning everything we know about our planet's history. Could this discovery rewrite history books and alter the future of humanity? Stay tuned as we delve into the shocking find that has scientists, historians, and governments scrambling for answers. This is one revelation that could truly change the world forever. The rare metal you've never heard of but use every day. Imagine a metal so rare that the entire world produces less of it in a year than a single copper mine produces in a day. A metal so crucial that it powers solar panels, medical devices, and even spacecraft. And yet, most people have never even heard of it. Meet tellurium, the metalloid that quietly fuels some of the most important technologies of the 21st century. Unlike gold, silver, or platinum, tellurium doesn't get much attention. It's not something people invest in or wear as jewelry. It's not even something most scientists talk about regularly. But despite its low profile, tellurium is becoming one of the most in-demand elements on the planet. Here's where things get really interesting. In 2022, the entire world produced only 681 tons of tellurium. Compare that to the 21.9 million tons of copper mined that same year, and you start to get a sense of just how scarce this metal really is. As expected, China dominates production, accounting for a whopping 500 tons of the global supply. Other countries produce only small amounts, leaving industries around the world heavily dependent on Chinese sources. But that might not be the case for much longer. In 2022, a massive deposit of tellurium was discovered in Utah, USA. This could be a game changer, not just for the U.S., but for the global rare metals market. Tellurium has been an overlooked element for decades, but this discovery could shift the balance of power in the mining sector. If the U.S. can ramp up production, it could challenge China's dominance and secure its own supply of this critical resource. But why is tellurium so rare in the first place? Why do we produce so little of it compared to other metals? And is there really a chance that a large portion of it escaped into space? We hear about gold, silver, and platinum all the time. But tellurium? It's barely on anyone's radar. That might have something to do with the fact that there's hardly any of it on Earth. And, according to some scientists, that's because it literally floated away into space. Tellurium is considered one of the rarest stable solid elements on our planet. But it wasn't always this case. Billions of years ago, during Earth's formation, intense chemical reactions were taking place at an unimaginable scale. At the time, tellurium existed in much larger quantities. But due to its volatile nature, it evaporated into space as a gas, meaning that a significant amount of what was originally on Earth is now somewhere out in the cosmos. Essentially, while gold and silver remain locked within the Earth's crust, tellurium just drifted away, leaving us with only trace amounts of what could have been a much more abundant resource. So, how much tellurium is actually left on Earth? It turns out, not much. Tellurium is about as rare as platinum, which makes it incredibly valuable. But unlike platinum, we don't mine it directly. Instead, most of the tellurium we extract comes as a byproduct of copper refining. In other words, we only get tellurium in small amounts when we process massive amounts of copper ore, and that's a big problem. Since tellurium isn't the primary target of mining operations, we can't just dig up more of it whenever we want. Instead, we're limited by how much copper we're mining at any given time. Now, here's where things get even more complicated. Copper demand is skyrocketing, and more copper mining should, in theory, lead to more tellurium production. But here's the catch. Not all copper deposits contain tellurium. Some mines yield decent amounts, while others produce almost none at all. This means that even if copper mining increases, there's no guarantee that tellurium production will increase with it. So, if tellurium is as rare and as hard to extract, how do we secure enough of it for the future? Can we mine it in space? With tellurium running low on Earth and demand increasing, one question starts to emerge. Could we actually mine the tellurium that drifted away into space billions of years ago? It sounds like science fiction, but space mining is no longer just a fantasy. Several private companies and space agencies are actively researching the possibility of extracting valuable metals from asteroids. Some scientists believe that asteroids contain much higher concentrations of tellurium than Earth, since they may have formed under different conditions that prevented the element from escaping. If that's true, space mining could offer a new and virtually limitless supply of tellurium, and considering how essential this metal is becoming, it might not be long before companies start exploring this possibility more seriously. In the meantime, the tellurium discovery in Utah could provide a much-needed boost to global supply. If production ramps up in the U.S., it could challenge China's hold on the market and change the dynamics of rare metal mining worldwide. But here's the big question. Will we ever be able to extract enough tellurium from Earth to meet future demand? Or will we have to look beyond our planet to find more? How copper is helping the U.S. catch up for the United States. The key to challenging China's dominance in tellurium isn't coming from a high-tech lab or a revolutionary new discovery. It's coming from copper. And more specifically, from one of the most massive holes ever dug by human hands, the Bingham Canyon copper mine in Utah. The mine, controlled by Rio Tinto, has been in operation since 1906. Over the past century, mining operations have carved out a staggering pit more than 4,000 feet deep, 2.5 miles wide, and spanning over 3 square miles. This isn't just any mine. It holds the title of the world's largest human-made excavation and the deepest open-pit mine on the planet. So, just how much copper has been extracted from this massive site? To put it into perspective, the entire world produced 21.9 million tons of copper in 2022. And Bingham Canyon, on its own, has extracted about 17 million tons over its lifetime, more than any other mine in history. But what does any of this have to do with tellurium? How does a giant copper mine play a role in shifting the global balance of rare metal production? Here's where things get interesting. In 2022, Rio Tinto completed the construction of a specialized processing plant designed to extract tellurium from copper ore. No, this isn't alchemy or some futuristic metal transformation. It's just advanced industrial chemistry in action. When copper ore is processed, it leaves behind a sludge-like byproduct filled with trace amounts of other elements, including tellurium. Instead of treating this waste as, well, waste, Rio Tinto figured out how to separate and refine the tellurium trapped within it. The process involves heating and chemically treating the material to produce something called a copper telluride precipitate. Essentially, solid blocks of tellurium-rich material. This facility is now producing about 20 tons of tellurium every year. At first glance, that number might not seem impressive, but let's put it into perspective. In 2022, total global tellurium production was just 681 tons. That means that a single facility in Utah is now responsible for nearly 3% of the world's entire tellurium output. That's a massive step forward for the United States. While it's not enough to overtake China, it significantly reduces American dependence on foreign sources for this critical element. And it's not just the U.S. that benefits from this. The entire world gains access to more tellurium, which is becoming increasingly vital for the growth of green energy technologies. Why solar power needs more tellurium than ever? Think back to the early 2000s. Solar energy was still a niche technology, expensive, inefficient, and far from mainstream. Fast forward to today, and solar panels are everywhere, from rooftops to massive solar farms stretching across deserts. But few people realize that one of the key ingredients behind this solar boom is the same rare metal we've been talking about, tellurium. Tellurium plays a critical role in cadmium telluride, CDTE, solar panels, one of the most efficient and cost-effective types of photovoltaic technology. Unlike traditional silicon-based panels, CDTE panels are cheaper to produce, more efficient in converting sunlight to energy, and perform better in low-light conditions. As the demand for renewable energy skyrockets, so does the demand for tellurium. Let's take a look at how much the solar industry has expanded in recent years. At the end of the 2000s, the total global solar capacity was just 17 gigawatts. By 2015, that number had jumped to 50 gigawatts. By 2022, total solar capacity had exploded to 240 gigawatts. That's an increase of over 1,300% in just a couple of decades. And guess who dominates the solar panel industry? China. Not only is China the #1 producer of tellurium, but it's also the largest manufacturer of solar panels in the world. These two facts aren't a coincidence. China's control over tellurium has allowed it to corner the market on solar technology, making it the undisputed leader in the field. But things might start to change. According to global energy forecasts, the total installed capacity of solar panels could exceed 330 gigawatts by 2030. Some experts believe that growth could be even more dramatic, pushing that number even higher. And what does that mean? The world will need more and more tellurium. The Utah plant's contribution may seem small compared to China's output, but in an industry where every gram of tellurium matters, even a modest increase in supply can have a major impact. So, where does this leave us? The U.S. is steadily increasing its tellurium production thanks to Rio Tinto and the Bingham Canyon mine. The demand for tellurium is surging, driven by the booming solar energy sector. China still holds the lead, but other nations are starting to catch up, and that could shake up the global rare metal industry. But here's the bigger question. Will the world's supply of tellurium be enough to support the future of solar energy? Or will we need to start looking beyond Earth to find more of it? Because if scientists are right, and massive amounts of tellurium really did escape into space during Earth's formation, then perhaps the key to unlimited green energy lies beyond our planet's atmosphere. With new advances in space mining technology and asteroid exploration, some experts believe we could eventually extract tellurium from asteroids or the moon. It sounds like science fiction, but considering how fast the world is running out of critical materials, space mining might become a necessity rather than a fantasy. For now, though, one thing is clear. Tellurium is no longer an obscure element buried in chemistry textbooks. It's a key player in the future of energy, and its scarcity will only make it more valuable in the years to come. The U.S. has made a move. The rest of the world is watching. The question is, will tellurium be the metal that reshapes the future of energy and industry? Or will its rarity force humanity to look beyond our own planet for the resources we need? Only time will tell. The growing demand for tellurium, the question keeps coming up. What does tellurium have to do with all of this? How does this rare metalloid connect to the future of energy? The thing is, traditional photovoltaic cells made from crystalline silicon are steadily being replaced by more advanced semiconductor layers composed of tellurium and cadmium. This shift isn't happening by chance. It's happening because CdTe, cadmium telluride, solar panels offer several advantages that silicon-based ones simply can't match. But here's where the problem begins. Tellurium demand is already exceeding supply, and the future outlook isn't looking much better. By 2030, experts estimate that the world will need more than 1,200 tons of tellurium annually just to keep up with solar panel production. That number might not mean much at first glance, but consider this. Right now, the entire global supply doesn't even reach 700 tons per year. That's a massive shortfall that could severely limit the growth of solar energy if new sources of tellurium aren't secured. This is exactly why the 20 tons per year coming from the Utah tellurium plant is such a big deal. At first glance, that number seems small, but in the context of global production, it represents nearly 3% of the entire world's tellurium supply coming from a single facility. Even though it's not enough to close the gap completely, it's a crucial step in the right direction. But why is tellurium such a game changer for solar panels? What makes CdTe panels superior to silicon-based solutions? The answer isn't a single factor. There are multiple reasons why cadmium telluride technology is reshaping the solar energy industry. First, let's talk about production speed, something manufacturers are always concerned about. CdTe modules can be produced in under 4.5 hours, significantly faster than traditional silicon-based panels, which require far more processing time. That faster production speed directly translates to lower costs. The longer it takes to make a product, the more money manufacturers have to pay workers, and that cost is passed down to the consumer. Since CdTe panels require less labor, their overall production costs remain lower, making them a more affordable option compared to silicon-based alternatives. Beyond production speed, CdTe technology is simply cheaper to manufacture. Traditional silicon panels require costly materials and an energy-intensive production process, while CdTe panels cost significantly less per unit of energy produced. The price difference is staggering. CdTe panels are currently available at $0.46 per watt, making them 70% cheaper than standard crystalline silicon panels. This kind of price reduction could make solar energy more accessible to homeowners, businesses, and even governments looking to shift toward renewable energy. Then, there's flexibility. Unlike rigid silicon panels, which are heavy and require specialized mounting equipment, CDTE panels can be thin and lightweight, allowing them to be installed in places where traditional solar panels wouldn't fit. These flexible solar panels can be attached to planes, vehicles, curved surfaces, and even mobile structures, opening up a new world of possibilities for solar energy applications. Unlike other thin-film technologies, CDTE is also the only one that's cheaper than silicon-based solar cells, making it a clear winner for affordability and adaptability. But, of course, no technology is perfect. CDTE panels do have a downside. They are slightly less efficient at converting sunlight into electricity. On average, their efficiency is 1 to 6% lower than silicon-based solar panels. While that might not seem like much, some consumers might see it as a deal-breaker. However, the lower cost of CDTE panels more than makes up for this inefficiency. Since they are cheaper, homeowners and businesses can simply install more panels to generate the same amount of energy. Right now, CDTE panels are primarily used in industrial-scale solar farms, where companies have plenty of space to install large numbers of panels. But this could soon change. Major breakthroughs in CDTE technology suggest that these panels might soon become the standard choice for homes and businesses as well. Could tellurium-based solar panels power the world? First Solar, one of the largest manufacturers of CDTE panels, has been making huge strides in increasing their efficiency. Back in 2014, the company managed to push the efficiency of CDTE cells to 21.1% in a controlled laboratory setting. Then, in 2016, they reached 22.1% efficiency, getting closer and closer to the efficiency levels of traditional silicon-based panels. If companies like First Solar can maintain their low-cost advantage while boosting efficiency even further, CDTE panel could become the dominant solar technology worldwide. If that happens, the Rio Tinto tellurium plant in Utah will become far more important than anyone initially expected. Imagine a future where tellurium-based solar panels power most of the world's homes, where flexible solar films cover cars, skyscrapers, and even city streets, and where solar farms stretch across vast landscapes, generating electricity at a fraction of today's costs. That future isn't some distant dream. It's entirely within reach, based on the advancements happening right now. As demand for cheap, efficient renewable energy continues to rise, tellurium will play a central role in shaping the global energy landscape. But there's still one major challenge. Tellurium is rare. Even with increased production from the Utah plant, the world is expected to run short of tellurium in the coming years. That raises some pressing questions. Where will we find enough tellurium to meet demand? Will new mining operations be able to keep up? Or will we need to look beyond Earth for solutions? Some researchers believe the answer isn't on Earth at all, but in space. It's no secret that tellurium is one of the rarest stable elements in Earth's crust. But what if large quantities of it exist on asteroids that never lost their tellurium like Earth did billions of years ago? Some scientists believe asteroid mining could provide a nearly unlimited supply of tellurium, completely eliminating the supply shortage issue. Companies like Planetary Resources and Deep Space Industries are already exploring space mining, and while it's still in its early stages, the potential is massive. If asteroid mining becomes viable, tellurium shortages could disappear entirely, allowing CDTE solar panels to completely dominate the market. But until then, every single ton of tellurium that gets extracted on Earth is critical. That's why Rio Tinto's Utah plant isn't just another mine. It's part of a much larger shift in how the world sources, processes, and uses rare materials. The transition away from fossil fuels depends on materials like tellurium, and whether or not we can secure enough of it will determine the future of solar power, global energy, and the fight against climate change. The next few years will be pivotal in deciding whether we run out of tellurium or whether new discoveries, increased production, and technological breakthroughs allow supply to keep up with demand. One thing is certain, tellurium is no longer just some obscure element buried in chemistry textbooks. It has become one of the most critical resources for the future of renewable energy. If we can overcome the supply challenges, tellurium-based solar panels could revolutionize the world. But if we can't, renewable energy might face unexpected roadblocks that could slow the transition away from fossil fuels. Either way, tellurium's importance is only growing. The only question now is, can we find enough of it on Earth, or will the search for tellurium push humanity into space? Other applications of tellurium, from space telescopes to life-saving medicine, the incredible properties of cadmium telluride, CDTE, panels make them a perfect fit for solar energy on Earth. But their usefulness doesn't stop there. In fact, tellurium-based technology is already in space, not the tellurium that drifted away from our planet billions of years ago, but the tellurium that NASA launched into space as part of the NUSTAR Space Telescope Nuclear Spectroscopic Telescope Array. NUSTAR, launched in 2012, was designed to observe high-energy X-rays in space, allowing astronomers to study black holes, supernova remnants, and other extreme cosmic phenomena. Tellurium plays a critical role in this mission because cadmium-zinc telluride, CZT, detectors form the core of NUSTAR's imaging system. Without these tellurium-based detectors, the telescope wouldn't be able to capture the high-energy X-rays needed for such groundbreaking discoveries. In February 2013, scientists used NUSTAR to measure the rotation speed of the supermassive black hole at the center of the NGC 1365 galaxy. 4 years later, in 2017, researchers from Durham University and the University of Southampton analyzed NUSTAR data and discovered supermassive black holes at the centers of NGC 1448 and IC 3639. Even more astonishing, NUSTAR allowed scientists to detect X-rays from the far side of a black hole, a feat that would have been impossible without the help of cadmium-zinc telluride detectors. These tellurium-based imaging systems are revolutionizing space research, but space isn't the only place where tellurium is making an impact. Back on Earth, this element is being used in hospitals to save lives. Tellurium in medicine, bombarded to heal. While it might sound like something out of science fiction, tellurium is actually bombarded with neutrons in medical treatments, not as a weapon, but as a method to produce iodine-131, a crucial isotope in treating thyroid disorders and cancer. For patients suffering from hypothyroidism, small doses of iodine-131 help regulate excessive hormone production. When used in larger doses, iodine-131 becomes a powerful tool in treating thyroid cancer, effectively targeting cancer cells while minimizing damage to surrounding tissues. The ability to extract iodine-131 from tellurium means that this rare metal is directly contributing to life-saving medical treatments used in hospitals around the world. But the list of applications doesn't stop there. Tellurium compounds are also used as pigments in ceramics, helping to create vibrant, long-lasting colors in everything from pottery to industrial materials. And if you're reading this on the internet, there's a good chance fiber optic cables are delivering that data to your screen. Tellurides, compounds that contain tellurium, are sometimes used in the production of these cables, ensuring that high-speed data transmission remains fast and efficient. Tellurium also plays an important role in thermoelectric materials, which convert heat into electricity with remarkable efficiency. This technology is being used in power generation, cooling systems, and even spacecraft, proving once again that tellurium's potential is vast and far-reaching. And then there's its role in photocathodes, a key component of photomultiplier tubes used in scientific and industrial imaging applications. These tubes detect faint light signals, making them essential for research in astronomy, medical imaging, and nuclear physics. With so many diverse applications, it's clear that tellurium is far more than just an ingredient for solar panels. Even the 20 tons per year from the Rio Tinto plant in Utah will make a significant difference for industries that rely on this rare element. But Rio Tinto's influence doesn't end there. The company has another major mining project that could have just as big of an impact, this time not for tellurium, but for nickel. Rio Tinto's expansion. The Minnesota Nickel Project. While Rio Tinto's Utah tellurium production is getting attention, the company is also investing in other critical minerals needed for modern technology. One of its most ambitious projects is the Tamarack Project, a joint venture with Talon Metals focused on extracting nickel in Minnesota. Nickel might not be as rare as tellurium, but it's just as essential. It plays a crucial role in battery production, powering everything from electric vehicles, EVs, and smartphones to laptops and renewable energy storage systems. Without nickel, modern battery technology wouldn't function, and demand for nickel has never been higher. The U.S. currently lags far behind in nickel production, which poses a major problem for the country's energy independence and EV industry. Just how bad is the situation? Let's take a look at the numbers. In 2023, the U.S. produced only 17,000 tons of nickel. That's so little that the country doesn't even rank among the top nickel-producing nations. To put this into perspective, the U.S. produces less nickel than Madagascar, which mined 60,000 tons in the same year. This is a serious problem, especially as global demand for nickel continues to skyrocket due to the explosion of EV production and the increasing need for grid-scale energy storage solutions. This is where the Tamarack project in Minnesota comes in. It's expected to yield around 3,600 tons of nickel per day, which adds up to 1.3 million tons annually. If these numbers hold, the U.S. could dramatically reduce its dependence on foreign nickel and become a major player in the global nickel market. The implications of this are massive. A stable domestic supply of nickel means the U.S. can ramp up EV production, expand battery storage capacity for renewable energy, and reduce reliance on imports from countries like Indonesia, Russia, and the Philippines, which currently dominate the market. But while nickel is essential for energy storage, tellurium remains a key ingredient in the future of energy generation. With solar panel production ramping up and demand for rare metals increasing, companies like Rio Tinto are positioned to play a pivotal role in the future of clean energy and advanced technology. The question is, will the supply keep up with the demand? And if not, will we have to turn to space mining to extract the metals we need? One thing is certain. The world's hunger for rare minerals is only growing, and companies that can secure these resources will shape the industries of tomorrow. Tamarack Project in the future of tellurium. The Tamarack Project could push the U.S. to second place in global nickel production and revolutionize the industry. Tesla is already committed to buying 75,000 tons of nickel concentrate over 6 years once the mine opens, reinforcing its importance for EV batteries. Unlike tellurium, which Rio Tinto extract from copper refining waste, mining nickel requires large-scale excavation. The challenge? The planned mine site in Minnesota is surrounded by streams, wetlands, and wild rice fields. Nickel deposits are tied to sulfide ores, which, when exposed to air and water, can release sulfuric acid, potentially devastating the environment. A 2017 University of Minnesota study found that sulfide mining byproducts make water bodies inhospitable to wild rice, raising concerns for local ecosystems. Rio Tinto and Talon Metals promise safeguards. They plan to use a sealed cement tunnel to prevent groundwater contamination and transport, or in sealed containers to a processing plant in North Dakota. Whether these measures will be enough remains to be seen, but the U.S. needs domestic nickel sources to reduce dependence on foreign suppliers. Meanwhile, Rio Tinto's tellurium plant in Utah has become a key player in U.S. energy strategy, helping reduce reliance on China, the world's top tellurium producer. Tellurium is crucial for cadmium telluride solar panels, which are cheaper and faster to produce than traditional silicon panels. However, critics argue that cadmium is toxic, raising concerns about panel disposal. One solution is recycling, but as of 2013, the cost of recycling cadmium telluride panels outweighed the value of the recovered materials. Proposed solutions, like vulcanization vacuum distillation, never gained traction. Despite this, demand for tellurium keeps growing, and Rio Tinto has secured a deal with First Solar, the world's largest producer of CDT solar panels. At the same time, Rio Tinto is expanding into lithium extraction from waste rock at Boron Mine in California, producing 10 tons per year in 2021, with plans to scale up to 5,000 tons annually, enough for 70,000 EVs. In Canada, they've also developed a method to extract scandium from titanium dioxide waste. Despite opposition, Rio Tinto's Utah tellurium plant is now a strategic asset. Recovering rare elements from mining waste has helped the U.S. close the gap with China while supporting the global transition to renewable energy and electric vehicles. Tellurium, nickel, and other rare elements are shaping the future of energy, and Rio Tinto is at the center of it all. Whether through solar panels, EV batteries, or space technology, these resources are crucial. But can production keep up with demand? What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more deep dives into the future of technology.